Government no longer seemed to be government. Regulators no longer were burdened by the need to regulate. Rule breakers had, through an incomprehensible metamorphosis, become the rule makers, and the new rules seemed made not by Parliament, but by a profit and loss ledger, by, in other words, greed. The senior bureaucrat advised us that our only hope was to deal directly with Tassow, and for the next 15 years we did. Over 15 years you might expect any industrial operation, particularly one with concerned neighbours, to gradually become quieter and cleaner. You would certainly expect government to improve regulation. But that's not what happened. The government regulators did nothing. As salmon farming industrialised, the farm grew larger, noisier and filthier, flogging our waters harder and harder, a Tassow senior employee once confiding that they breached their stocking limits there by 50%. For 15 years our community tried to find an honourable compromise with Tassow. None of us wanted a fight. We wanted the beauty and happiness of our world to continue. That was all. We didn't like the growing evidence of marine pollution, of a struggling marine ecosystem. But we felt these were beyond our tiny influence, so we restricted our entreaties to noise only. We didn't like the salmon farm, but we felt compelled to accept it in a live and let live spirit. But while we let Tassow live, things began to die. The water, once so clear, grew turbid with the pollution from the farms, uneaten food pellets, the tons of fish shit that now fell to the seafloor below the cages, a sludge slowly swept by tide and current through the greater waterway that is D'Entrecasteaux Channel. Algal growths fed by the massive nutrient outflows from the sludge began appearing on the rocks and on the seagrass beds. The seagrass began to retreat. Yet the process was slow. So slow as for a long time to be almost imperceptible. Some things, though, strange things, were unmistakable. There were fewer and fewer fish. There was more and more noise, and the farm began to take on the appearance of a heavy industrial site. Everything began accelerating. From being few fish to catch, there were suddenly none. Great factory ships with their huge diesel engines now beat up and down the channel 24/7. Sometimes they set up at the farm opposite and worked day and night, the noise, as one neighbour put it, like the sound of a semi-trailer reversing under your bedroom window. Whenever the community complained, Tassow responded with evasions and little action. What little they would do, we would discover was soon undone. When pushed, they deceived and dissembled. Every promise Tassow made to our community, they finally broke. Every agreement Tassow made, they ultimately dishonoured. When pressed, Tassow would argue that the farm was within regulations, though there were very few regulations, and what regulations existed were weak and were, in any case, never enforced. There was no cop on the beat. When it came to the salmon industry, we found ourselves with no rights as citizens. Like favela residents in Rio de Janeiro who, because the police won't enter the favelas, have to ask drug lords to administer justice, we had no choice but to seek redress for the salmon farm's problems from the salmon farmers themselves. And what we met was an industry so drunk on its own power that rather than address these many problems, it happily worsened them, opening up nearby zombie leases as new farms without notice or consultation, secure in the knowledge that locals were powerless, that no one dared stop the industry, and that the government and its bureaucrats would do nothing. We were condemned to live amid the immense damage done when government abrogates its responsibilities.